Are we playing an ad first, eh?
Yes.
Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. Career Talk brings Africa's changemakers to one table, where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. Career Talk, because the future of work starts with you. Hello Africa! Want to stay plugged into the world of work? Follow us at Career Indaba on LinkedIn, Instagram and X, and dive deeper at careerindaba.org. The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works. The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works.
Good morning, people of South Africa, and to everyone listening across the continent. Welcome to on careerindaba.com. I am your host, Coach Naz, and very excited to be sharing the airwaves with you this morning. If this is your first time on this platform, welcome to the space that focuses on youth unemployment in Africa. This isn't just another talk show. Career Indaba is a movement, a space for real conversations about one of the biggest challenges facing our nation, unemployment. But here's the twist. We are not here to dwell on the problem. We are here to spark solutions, hope. And we want you to be involved in this solution. Please, leaders, youth, this is your voice. Please share with us. Please connect with us. We would love to hear from you. The vision for Career Indaba is to drive positive change in the sector and to inspire individuals to create the life they desire. In addition to this, it is also a space within the government and private sectors to support this initiative and reduce the unemployment rate in South Africa. Create opportunities to fill this gap, sharing knowledge, by sharing opportunities, by connecting your solutions to the market that is unable to actually connect with you. You see, unemployment is not just about getting a job. It is about what happens to our confidence, our purpose, our families, and our communities when we start to lose hope. So how do we as a nation bring that hope, bring that solutions, bring that positive vibe to so many people out there searching for answers, yet not sure where to reach out? But if we shifted that story, what if we, instead of saying there are no jobs, we asked what can we create? What if instead of waiting for opportunities, we decided to build them? This is not just for companies, this is individuals. It's about changing the attitude, changing the lingo, focus, and moving into a more positive space. I'm a life coach, and that is something I'm very driven. It's about igniting your inner light. It's about shifting your perception into more of a creation mode than a victim mode. So let's start the conversations. It's very exciting to share the airwaves. It's very exciting to connect people. That is what this platform is all about, empowering individuals to take their own journey through learning, innovation, collaboration, and community support. The question is how nation to drive this initiative. Let's discuss potential solutions and resources available to young people. I'm passionate about helping you find your purpose, direction, and opportunity, even in the face of unemployment. We at Career Indaba would love to hear from you and understand the challenges you face as individuals and companies in this sector. We'll talk about the ripple effect unemployment has on SA as a whole, collective consciousness. So today is our very first episode. We are kicking things off by asking a simple but powerful question. What can the youth of SA do right now to create opportunities for themselves and others? Please join us in this conversation. Please reach out through www.careerindaba.org and connect with us. Share your voice, share your challenges, share your fears, and let's see how we as a community can find solutions. Today, we will unpack the ripple effect of unemployment, how it affects not just individuals, but families, communities, and even our country's future. Coming up as well, we'll be talking about taking accountability. It's easy for us to blame, but how do we take accountability for our lives and drive the change that will have positive ripple effects on our country? We're also looking at how each of us can take ownership of our journey, even through the tough economy. And later, I'll be joined by someone who's walked this path, challenged the system, and built his own lane when the doors were closed. They'll share their stories, their lessons, and what keeps them going to remind us that possibility is always within reach. This show is here to bridge that gap, to connect ideas to action, skills to opportunity, and people to purpose. My question to the youth of today, if you have finished your studies, a lot of the youth struggle to still, as the answer is always, you don't have experience. So you're sitting with your degree, but you don't have experience. And that can be very demotivating. Yet you followed something that you passionate. And the question is, how are we going to shift that for you? How do we shift your perception before you start drowning in the sea of negativity? Okay, we're going to address these issues today. We're going to speak to somebody who's taken that step already, and hopefully his story will inspire you. I will also be sharing a little bit about my story when I was the unemployed youth of Africa, many more. But stay tuned, and hopefully something in the show today will ignite and spark something to find your magic and create magic that will then have a ripple effect on SA. This show is here to bridge the gap, to connect ideas to action, skills to opportunity, and people to purpose. So if you've just joined, please stay tuned as we bring the positive spin to this negative space. Okay, today's show is all about youth unemployment, a challenge that affects millions, but one we can face together. The right mindset, accountability, and action. Are you ready to take accountability? Are you ready to take action for your life? Are you ready to change your story into something that will inspire? Think about that for a moment. And let's open this and see how we can support you in that. We'll talk about what's really holding young people back, what needs to change, and most importantly, how you can take charge of your journey, build your skills, and create your own opportunity. Are you ready to do this? Please connect with us on www.careerindaba.org and let's get the conversation started. Your future starts here today. We will be sharing practical tools to help you move forward. So grab your notebook, open your mind, and let's get started. So, in order for change to happen, we as individuals need to be aware of the ripple effect of unemployment, not just for leaders and the governments to drive the change. The first step is awareness. Do you as individuals understand the effects of employment? Unemployment in South Africa doesn't just affect just one individual. It's the ripple effect that families, communities, and the economy as a whole. To touch on that ripple effect of unemployment, very often we as individuals only focus on the impact of things in our world and not as a whole. Let's delve into that and create awareness. When we are in the face of unemployment, we are so drowning on those case scenarios and feel that we lose sight of what can be created. And when we have different understanding on what is happening around us, what is happening within us, we then have the power to change that, to transform that, and to ignite something different. And the stories that will be shared here today, I hope, is something that will ignite that spark in you to try something different. So what I find in my personal experience when I deal with the youth of today, it's a lot of times this attitude of the government did this, or someone should be doing something for me, or I can't find anything. Okay, so we will be unpacking that a little bit more later on in the show today. But the challenge here is, how do you take accountability? Especially if you've already studied, you had the opportunity to study the degree, you hold the knowledge. And I think for training institutes and leaders in organizations that invest in this, it's also very important. Like I recently have a youth that's under me at the moment. And what I found is degree, however, she's struggling with confidence. She's struggling with the basic skills of life, like communication, interaction, etc. And, you know, it's amazing to see that on one hand, she's got the knowledge, but on the other hand, she's lacking the skills of actually connecting in the world. So us as organization, leaders, life coaches, counselors, therapists out there, how do we create a space to take them to that next level, to further empower them in what they've already journeyed down the road to? Okay, so that's something for leaders to also think about in organizations. Reach out to Career Indaba and let's have that conversation on how we can drive that positive change for South Africa. In saying that, the ripple effect that it has, I just want to look at a few points on that. So on one hand, the emotional and psychological impact on the individual when they cannot find jobs, it affects their confidence, their self-worth, their mental health. Many young people begin to lose hope, leading to anxiety and a sense of disconnection from society. With over of the market unemployed, imagine the impact this has on collective consciousness if people are vibing on such vibration. Okay, it only impact the individuals. When we look at unemployment in the bigger scheme of things, it has an impact on the family and community strain. One unemployed person often supports the entire family. When there's no income, it leads to financial stress, family conflict, and in some cases, increased dependency on social grants or others who are also struggling. And this just adds more and more pressure and builds on that, those emotional blocks that start to come in of not feeling good enough, feeling worthless. So if you are connecting, please reach out to us and let's talk. Let's see how we can help you. The other impact is youth disengagement and social issues. High youth unemployment fuels frustration and hopelessness. This can contribute to crime, substance abuse, and social unrest, as young people feel excluded from economic participation. If you are out there and you are in the government, please reach out to us and let's have this conversation to fix unemployment, to build a better, more positive South Africa for all of us. This has too many ripple effects, and this is the future of our country we are talking about today. This is where we need to ignite their light, where we need to support them. So let's have these conversations. Connect with us today. The other impact is economic slowdown. With fewer people earning, there's less spending power. That means small businesses struggle, consumer demand drops, and job creation slows even further. A cycle that's hard to. Is it possible? Yes. If we work together as a nation, I do believe that we can change that unemployment percentage and start dropping it and start creating more positive ripple effects. The other challenge that we face as a country with unemployment is a loss of skills and talent drain. When people remain unemployed for long periods of time, their skills go unused, and many talented South Africans also leave the country in search of better opportunities, creating a brain drain effect on South Africa. The general impact is the generational impact is children growing up in households affected by long-term unemployment often have less access to education, nutrition, and career guidance, continuing the cycle of poverty and limited opportunity. So this is just a few things on how unemployment is impacting the ripple effect of South Africa, and what can we as a community then do to fix that. So at Career Indaba, it's not just about inspiring the youth, it's about inspiring companies with the power to bring a difference. Are you as a company sitting with solutions and struggling to actually reach the youth and need a voice to share your drive or your vision to bring positive change? If you are, please reach out to us and let's see how we as a platform can then connect people to solutions, companies to drive positive change. This is something I think when you look at the emotional and psychological part of it and the impact it has on crime, it is impacting everybody. Whether you're employed, whether you're the youth, it doesn't matter where you are. The fact this has a ripple effect on it has a ripple effect on stress, on individuals, and the future. We are talking about the future of our country. How are we as people who have created for ourselves, who have taken ourselves out of that victim mindset, then shift into a space that we can create the youth? Like technology has taken over, which has also disconnected them from emotional intelligence. How can we help them to become more connected, to become more aware, is a conversation I would love to have with people who are ready to the inner light, not just of individuals, of SA, but it starts with one pebble, and that then creates ripple effects throughout SA. If you have just tuned in, Coach Naz, and this is Career Talk, where we are talking unemployment and what positive spins we can bring into this space and drive a better, brighter future for SA. I think a lot of times people take the emotional wellness granted. We all talk about emotional wellness. We talk about the impact it has. Focus a day on that. So how do we drive that positive change and bring that awareness, but not just in talking, in action. How do we drive it as a nation? I was Coach Naz, and this is Career Talk. Connect with us. We will be having some inspiring stories to share. Very shortly, I will be joined by my guest and his inspiring story of how he created. Speak to the leaders and to organizations and private sectors, etc. It's just for you to change. This show is also about how do we get the youth to understand their role in all of this? How do you create your life? How do you take different steps? And how do you shift yourself out of the sea of negativity into a space of creation? So if you have questions, please connect with us on all our social spaces, on WhatsApp, or via our website on careerindaba.org. We would love to hear from you. Okay, my guest is shortly going to be coming online, and I'm looking forward to sharing the airwaves with him to see how he can inspire youth. Since he speaks for the youth of today, and I've known him for a while, and I'm very excited to have him on the show today. Okay, so just tuned in, welcome. I'm Coach Naz on Career Talk on www.careerindaba.org, and today we are addressing youth unemployment in Africa. Thank you for tuning in. Let's be honest, youth unemployment is more than just the stats. It's the frustration, loss of confidence, feeling stuck. But the truth is, change starts with awareness and accountability. The question is, as I say that, do we actually know what accountability means? Or is it more challenging to be accountable that we tend to avoid that? It's easier to blame and say, oh no, but I tried and there's just nothing. It's the government because they have not created the jobs. But in saying that, there are so many people out there that have opportunities from nothing. Look at Oprah Winfrey. Okay, we look at her today as a successful person who's become a success overnight, but that is not the story. There was a story of choosing differently. There was a story of the story of creation. So we are also going to explore that and how do we shift your mindset into a better place. We are going to cut for a short break and be back shortly with my guest. I look forward to connecting with this chat further.
Career Indaba Channel, the voice of Africa's labor market. The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works.
Welcome to Career Talk. I'm your host, Coach Naz, and I am joined today by Osvaldo Maceta, who is my representation of the youth of Africa.
Thank you so much, Coach Naz. It's so amazing to be here, especially on a Monday morning. This is the perfect way to start the week. So I'm grateful to be here. How are you?
I'm very well, Thank you. Also feel, yeah, interesting way to start. Sorry, looking at our normal weeks, it's a nice way to start in a different
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
So, so we are about youth unemployment in Africa and the impact it has on not just the youth, not just individuals, but as a country. And today I've got Ozzy who's joining us to share some inspiration to this moment. Also to ask the question, what are we doing as a country? What are we doing as company individuals or not doing for that matter? That's key where we are today. So today I'm joined by Ozzy Museta, also known as Ozzy, who is a digital solution strategist and a cross-industry problem solver who has navigated 14 across marketing, healthcare, financial services, manufacturing for over 9 years. Rejecting traditional
Yeah.
paths, he's built his expertise through self-directed learning and targeted short courses, evolving from web designer to an automation system specialist. Leveraging AI, he's joining us today to inspire the youth of Africa and share his. Can I call you G? Because that's how I know you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Ozzy is perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Ozzy,
Yeah.
welcome to the space, and we'd love to get to know you a little bit more and your journey,
Thank
and
you.
how you overcame all of this.
You know what's like so interesting when I was preparing for this and I realized it's been 14 roles and I'm not even 30 yet. I'm only turning 30 next year. And I was like, 14 roles,
Wow,
that is
wow,
crazy. That's
that
a
is.
potential, yeah, that's like a potential red flag for any HR. They're like, oh, 14 jobs, you can't keep a job. But like, it's just like interesting for as a journey, how it's unfolded, starting all the way back from like high school till where I am now. And I'm like, wow, I've been putting in the work. So thank you for having me see that insight because I had to research my career for this talk. And I was like, okay, we have been doing a lot of things over the years. So that's been like beautiful as a journey itself. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how we forget what we create?
Yes, like
The good
you
thing.
just like true. Time just flies by, and you're just taking each day, each season as it comes, and you tend to then forget um, the ground that you built to be where you are now. So it was like a good refresher going down all my early CVs, then going back into the struggle itself of having navigated that journey, and even seeing the different motivations that kept me going, kept me able to say no to this, yes to this. Okay, my time here is done. I've reached the ceiling of growth. Let's go to the next thing. Let's try something else. So it was just like it was a highly emotional journey because it also showed you the the reality of what it's like in the current state of unemployment in the youth unemployment we're living in as a country. So it was just like very emotional. I wrote to say, oh, I remember the journey of walking to drop off CVs at multiple offices, parks, and and not having like transport money, all of those things. So it was just like, yeah, it was a nice emotional reminder of the journey. So thank you for having me go down that rabbit hole.
I'm fascinated that you just said you had to walk to drop CVs off. I thought with your generation, you had. That's what I did when I was youth unemployed back.
I tried everything. Everything.
Wow.
So emails some because now you're thinking maybe the email is not being seen. Let me go in person. So this was like way, way early on. Yeah. I was like, let me go in person. And I think where my journey started was also when I was 16, my dad point blank told me that, listen, with the state of the country and finances and business, you might not be able to take me to university when I turn 18. So already I had
Okay.
that mindset of, oh, I might have to start looking after myself sooner than the normal teenager. So when 18 came, it happened. The economy tanked. This was in the early 2010s. So we're just coming out of like 2008 recession. So things were really relatively bad. So I then had to start looking after myself. And the first thing I
Wow.
did in that first year, yeah, I had been prepared somewhat to know that I needed to take care of myself. And I was this tiny human being. I look back at those pictures, I'm like, I looked very tiny. So it was getting into this world, and I have no idea what direction to take. I know I'm not going to go to varsity. So that means from early on, I knew my path was going to be vastly different. So I watched all my peers go to university. I was very much happy for them. And then in that first year, was like my unofficial gap year where I was like, okay, how do I figure out what to do next with my life? Because at that point, the responsibility of how my life turned out was now solely in my hands. So I just took that, and the first thing I did, I was like, okay, let me get a taste of what it's like being in the world. I started to do like a lot of voluntary work just to,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
just to understand the mechanics of the world and also keep myself busy, because getting a job was very hard. Like I didn't even have my results yet. So it was hard to get a job because I didn't have any like certificate that showed like, oh, you
Mm,
know,
mm.
something. I was just blank. So I did 6 months of voluntary work. I was going to help with like with kids, like I'll do like talks, like more like life skills in a way. So I was like coaching kids, teaching them about life, which is very ironic because I myself at that point didn't know much about life, but I was just providing guidance. And within those 6 months, that's when I learned how to find my own voice. Interestingly, because speaking to kids are very hard to keep their attention because they don't fake it. Like if they're not entertained, if you don't have their attention, they're not gonna fake it and try and listen. They are gonna ignore you, which is like so funny. So I had to deal with that. And that in itself helped me build some level of confidence to be able to stand in front of adults and tell my own story and ask for a shot, because it's like the worst like you could get is a no. So eventually I then ended up getting a job as a till operator at
Oh,
Food Lovers Market. Yeah, which is like
can
interesting.
I ask a question? When you say you built your confidence, were you really confident, or were you just
No.
stepping out of your comfort zone with a whole lot of fear and anxiety?
I had
And you
so much I was faking it. I took the whole fake it till you make it to a heart. Like talking to people was one of the most daunting things ever because I'm a hardcore introvert. Like I've
wow,
learned how to grow. Yeah.
I wouldn't get.
And that's why I also said I was like a tiny human being. So imagine like you're already tiny, you already feel inferior just by how I looked. And I have to stand and sell myself. And I don't know what I'm selling myself. What's the basis of me selling myself? I can't say, oh, I have this experience. I have none. I can't say I have this degree. I have none. So all I had to offer was just like my character in a way. Like listen, take my word for it. I would get the job done. So it was very daunting. I was like, and it was a CV drop because I
To
had
know
to
that.
be there, and there was
Yes.
like a big line, like there was a huge line those days. So I got the job and I was happy, and I used that first 6 months salary to not only pay my school fees, because remember my dad now couldn't pay my fees for my final year, so now I paid off my fees, and then only after 6 months was I like, okay, now I can start building my life. So interestingly, in those 6 months, I built such good rapport with the team. As a tool operator, I was very efficient. I was inquisitive about like Microsoft Word. I wasn't like, oh, I just did this amount. I started getting more inside the business. Like, okay, oh, I've made this much money for the company. What else can I do to be better? I was always like inquisitive, very close to the supervisors, showing up even at nights, like in shifts when they needed someone to show up, and then you just show up, work an extra hour. So that got me noticed with the head office, right? And during January, the year end, um, they were having their final year reconciliations in the accounting department, so they needed as much hands as they can get, like a clerk. So my name popped up, and one day I just got a call. They're like, "Oh, they need you at the head office. Can you go and assist?" I kid you not, I've never done accounting. I didn't like maths. I was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but let's just go. I understood working with Excel. I'd helped with cash apps. So that's where they were like, oh no, you understand the business, you understand the cash flow. So just go. And I went, and I started like in that first month. I started helping out as much as I can with doing all the reconciliations, and I did what I felt like was my best. And for them, my best was so good enough, especially when they found out I have zero accounting background. They're like, "Oh wow, that's great." And by the way, I hated accounting. Let's just make that clear. I hated maths and accounting. It was
I
not
think that's
something I
important.
enjoyed doing.
That's important for
Yeah,
you to
yeah.
know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. It's important.
Yes. And that I think was the foundation of my journey, being honest and true to myself, because it made me then say, okay, I'm staying here for this long. I'm also staying here to learn this thing. So when once I've learned whatever it is I needed to learn from a particular experience, it then allowed me to say, okay, it's time to move, because I would feel how stagnant I was. And at heart, back then I didn't know it, but at heart, I was a creative. So I'm a creative stuck in a logic based industry doing accounting, maths. So during the first 6 months, I enjoyed it. I was getting now a higher salary even. Now they formally gave me the job to be an accounts clerk inside the head
Wow.
office of Food Lovers Market. And I was in charge of 4 nationwide stores. And I was like, whoa, are these people crazy? Like, is this because there was no nepotism even? So I always like used to question. That's why I had like massive imposter syndrome as well. I'm like, do people think I actually know what I'm doing? And like, do I know what I'm doing? But
That's so
based on the
lovely of you
results.
for you to
Yeah.
share that, because I think it's not only the youth that struggles with that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It goes
Yeah.
on people's career, and it's so nice to bring that here, because the youth, when you're just entering this market, it's such a daunting experience because you don't know where to even start. You don't even know what a CV is supposed to look like. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, right? Overcoming
True.
all of Ozzy, with that journey of yours that you shared, who was your support? Like, who was your in? This is how you type a CV. This is how, because I think that's important as well, because there's lots of companies and leadership out there that want to make a
Yeah.
difference. Maybe sometimes it's
Yeah.
as big as guiding someone on getting a CV done and being authentic with that, being your real self on
Yeah.
that CV. So who was that support structure for
Who
you?
was? Yeah. So I was getting to this part of the story that then lays the foundation of the
Mm.
last 10 years within my career, where um, in the 6 month of me working at this new job role, accounts clerk, and me then coming to terms with this is not what I want to do with my life. But what I'm doing now, I'm getting all this money. Well, how can I use it to elevate myself? It wasn't a lot to take me to university, but I was like, certainly I could use this to grow myself. So I enrolled in what I call the University of YouTube, like YouTube University. That is where that was my guidance for everything. So I went on YouTube. I started looking at videos about how to create resumes. So that's where I started learning how to do CVs, all the different CVs. And I started looking into different career paths. Started asking myself questions. Okay, what do I like? What did I like about this job? Because I wasn't even clear on what it is I wanted to do then. Because my dreams are
Absolutely.
at some
Yeah.
point, yeah. So I learned a lot from online platforms, YouTube mainly being one of them. YouTube was where it allowed me to pick up skills. So if I needed to learn how to do a CV, I'm watching 10 videos, 10 different videos, across 10 different industries, and then just getting what my template should be on how to make a CV based on what I'm looking for. So that's where I really got like the skill set of writing a CV, the skill
Wow.
set of understanding the market. I was like on YouTube all the time. So I'd go in the malls, download as much videos as I can on my phone, like, free Wi Fi. Yeah. free Wi-Fi, come back home, watch all the videos, have questions, write them down so that next time I go back, I know what I'm looking for to download all the videos. And I'm doing all of that. And then what I then started to do was, okay, how do I elevate myself now? I have the CV, but my CV is like, oh, I only have six or two roles now. I'm an accounts, I'm a till operator, and I now am an accounts clerk. So I now had to start asking myself, which direction do I want to grow in? And that's when I knew I wanted something creative. I wanted something that is technological, but I didn't have the right career guidance as well,
Okay.
full on, that was catered to me. I was just like researching all these interests. And so I used my salary 1 point. I paid for the Google Digital Skills Africa. Um, no, that was free. They were doing a Google Digital Skills Africa course. There was like a relatively, I think, 6 week program that introduced you to the world of IT. And it helped me find where I could fall in that. So it was very IT support geared, where it had to be in a support role more than it was in a creative role. So I took that, and that was the first one I did it. And then when I knew I was done as an accounts clerk, because I was bored every day, I'm sitting in the same desk, looking outside the same window. I was on autopilot. My job was like autopilot. I'm like, I am done. This is not engaging my brain. I feel brain dead. And I woke up one day, I packed my bags. It was so abrupt. Even my parents were like, "What are you doing in this economy? You are leaving a good job that's paying you well, where you can afford to take care of yourself and rent." And I left for Cape Town. It was very abrupt. I gave them like 1 month's notice. They celebrated me. They're like, "No, you are young. We are actually glad that you're doing this. Like, as much as we hate losing you because you are like very good for this role, I think this is because there were people now that really cared about me and my growth." So I left for Cape Town, and primarily to get the exposure I needed to be away from like family influence as well. So I just left for Cape Town, no proper plan. I had good funds that could last me for like 3 months. And yeah, I just started exploring myself in the city in it, started looking at the take up. I applied for a role at Amazon. I got the role, like I passed the interviewing stage, but unfortunately, I couldn't get the role. They just said, no, we can't. It was very like, it didn't make proper sense. But later on, I reached out to the HR manager. And this is something I learned that's very important in the job role. Reach out to HR managers directly on LinkedIn, get inside their inbox. They, I'm not going to say they love that because I'm not an HR manager, but what I've seen, it really puts you apart and it gives you direct feedback. So I just went and I said, "Hi, thank you so much for the role. I got the email that I was rejected, but I would just want to understand why my
Wow.
application didn't make it, because this role was like a customer service based role." And she loved that and said, "Give me your number and I'll give you a call later." She gave me a call. She said, "No, listen, you are very strong in how you speak, even in the test and everything. But with your experience and what you have, it's just not good enough. I would encourage you to look into doing like something like CompTIA A plus, enrich your skills in this direction if this is the outcome you want." And that was very invaluable because I got it directly from the hiring source, the source that's
Um,
hiring. They gave me the feedback that I could use to enrich my life. So instead of me worrying about a degree, um, yeah, instead of me worrying about a degree, I was just like focused on uh, the skills that I needed to build to get to a certain place. So I took the L. Eventually, my funds ran out, and then I went into survival mode. I'm like, okay, what do we do? We are alone. We don't know anyone. And I went into the restaurant business. I'd vowed that I would never actually go into the restaurant business, but I was like a waiter for 1 week and I quit. I quit after 1 week. I was like, I am not doing this. I am, this is not my portion. And that was something that was also, I saw is very important. Being honest with your strengths, being honest with what you are willing to endure, suffer through. Because if you're going to suffer through something that you know you hate, and the outcome is after that it breaks you, it's not worth going through it. It's better you suffer, and then when you come out of whatever that phase is, you have built some sort of like solid ground that's elevated you. So as much as like I was desperate for work, I knew that was not it. So I was like, you know what, let me go back to Joburg, because I know in Joburg, as tough as it is, it's a very competitive market. I stand a better chance if for someone who doesn't have any um, like degrees or anything to lean on. So I came back to Joburg, and I found a job as a customer service agent that did telephonic calls. And with that, that allowed me again to start going back to YouTube, learning more of my skills. And that's why eventually I learned about web design. And I was like, oh, this is my creative space that I've been searching for. And I started taking more courses. I started looking for career guidance, reaching out to more HR managers online. Like I would look at a company I want to grow in and just connect with the HR manager. You just get feedback. Sometimes it would just be easy as like, oh, what does it take to be in this role? And then they'll just tell you like, oh no, we need this, this, and this. And that's when I learned that job descriptions are just job descriptions. If you see a job you love and you have one, two, three skills, that key skills in that role, just apply. Because a lot of times I would tell myself, no, don't. And then I would just apply. And sometimes you get feedback. They call you, they're like, we really love this, but we see you don't have this. Then sometimes you just work it out actually and say, okay, I can come back in 6 months. And then you interview with the same HR manager and you get the job, you get the part. And yeah, eventually I started working with startups, and I saw, wait, I've built all these skills over the years. I started making a name for myself in the web design space and in the marketing. Started freelancing, doing websites for other people, building portfolios. Sometimes it was free websites just to get my portfolio going. Then at other times I would reach out to big startups, help them build a website, build a digital portfolio. And the more I started doing these, the more I started could charge people, the more I started getting clients, the more I started getting even like proper jobs where it was like a startup, but it was like solid foundation. It was now an agency setting that helped me get to that agency level. And from then, yeah, it was just growing. I now was able to call the shots for my own life in terms of the direction I wanted to take and keep growing, learning more skills along the way. And yeah, I started paying for more bigger courses even that took long. And yeah, that's how we got here.
There's so much of bravery and courage share in your story, because normally at that
Yeah.
younger age, you still trying to figure out life, trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah.
The vibe that you had, that you took accountability for what you want to create, and you went head on. And I love the tips of, connect with the HR person, find out why didn't you hire me. Because it's not just about not getting the job, it's about understanding,
Yeah.
you know is there I can improve, is there something I can do. And I love that. I think a lot of times people don't actually understand the power of creating, and that's what you did. You face for yourself. So that's quite
Yeah.
inspiring. We're going to break quickly and come back and listen and chat more to Ozzy on this inspirational journey. I want to know so much more about you, Ozzy. I think what you've shared so far gives hope to young people who are struggling. And, I hope that that little bit of what Ozzy has shared will give you a drive to say, okay, you don't have to go drop off CVs, but you can send emails, connect via LinkedIn, etc. I know when I was in that space as well, when I was unemployed, we didn't have technology, we didn't have emails, etc. You had to literally either post or fax your
Yeah.
your CV somewhere. Okay, so I don't even think the people listening know what a fax machine is,
Is
but have a lot more opportunity to connect on your fingertips than many other youth have had before, but they have created from that. So we're going to cut to a quick ad break. You are tuned in to Career Talk on careerindaba.com. I'm your host, Coach Naz, joined by my guest, Ozzy. Thank you. We'll be back
The
shortly.
conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. the Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market.
Welcome back to Career Talk. I am your host, Coach Naz, joined by Ozzy in his inspiring story of how he created his magic from unemployed to who he shares his story of inspiration, drive, courage, and bravery. Welcome back, Ozzy. What I would love to
Thank
know
you.
is you start from nowhere to being at cash till and then moving to accounts, and now you are an automation system
System
specialist.
specialist.
Do you
Yeah.
tell me more about this? What does this role mean? Where can you get more information on this, like studying wise, etc.? If there's someone out
Yeah.
there considering this as a career path, tell us more about that role.
Yes. So this role came to me interestingly. I didn't go searching for this role. I changed my positioning on LinkedIn. I was like, I wanted to move away from marketing now because I saw AI and what AI is doing and how that's the future of work. Like AI will be so integrated into our work. And I was very determined to future proof my work. Right. So I started changing everything around my CV, how my LinkedIn profile was. Your LinkedIn profile is a very powerful tool. I encourage you to use it, connect to people in the industry. So just random day after I quit my job, I quit my job like last year because I was like, I am done. I need something fresh. And I went for 6 months without a job. And that's when I saw the reality of unemployment. It's like, wow, that was not a smart move at all. The
Sure.
role came to me. Yeah, they called me and they said, "Oh, listen, you look perfect for this role. This is a role where we need someone who has a background in marketing, but is able to build automations within by understanding marketing tools." And this was a role that was based in the USA. In UK, it's a company that's based in the US and UK branches, so it's a remote role, and they needed someone who could just get in and hit the ground running. So based off of my track record, I'd all those things in. But guess what? I didn't know they use a platform called Go High Level. That's what they were moving to. I didn't know that CRM, but again, never let that stop you. If you know one thing and they're in any way similar, just say yes. Go. I went on YouTube the night before my interview and I watched everything there was to learn about that platform and just using my own knowledge and what I have already just applied it to that. So even the test, I made sure I understood how to build automations. So what my role entails is where I'm basically using AI to streamline um, efficiency within a department. So we're finding ways to implement AI solutions where we can say, oh, this is something that is takes forever as a process. How can we use AI alongside someone's role to be able to streamline so that they have more time and they're able to do other things. That's how it's marketed. I fear that sometimes it's also like replacing roles. That's why I'm like, we need to wake up to AI to be able to work with it so that our roles don't become obsolete quickly. But my role is then essentially finding all these business processes, understanding the nature of a business. So they have multiple things they're doing in the Australia, UK, South Africa, even, and USA, and finding how to use AI to be able to streamline whatever processes they use. So if it's sending out communications when people opt in on a website or getting them to, like, if they abandon a cart, I'm creating the structure that will follow up seamlessly by itself over time to be able to bring in revenue for a company. So essentially, since it's mainly directly in the marketing space, I'm helping with all the marketing efforts that needs to be automated, just using AI to automate that, using logic, using like different code. And the most important requirements is to be able to be someone who can build solutions. So if you can come up with a solution architecture, it's not even like solution that has to be technical. If you say, listen, this is the process. It has 20 steps. How can I change it from 20 steps to 5 steps? If you're able to be someone who can do that, 5 steps, those 5 steps now you're using AI in between to be able to help you build a solution like that. Or if it's an intricate solution that where you need to track something over 60 days, how can I build it seamlessly that it's able to do that and no human intervention comes in? You just know in 60 days, everything that needed to be done within the different checkpoints is done and it's efficient. That's what gets you in. It's how can you be able to be a creative problem solver where you're thinking creatively and you're marrying both logic and creativity together so that like you then end up seeing that the AI, all these other skills are just an addition to the core skill, which is being a problem solver and efficiency builder. So the things I had to learn were the tools, the marketing tools, go high level. I had to learn how AI works, just an understanding of large language models, LLMs as they're called. So learning how AI works, how to get the best out of AI in terms of your prompts, how to understanding. I never liked coding, but I just have base understanding of coding because that coding logic goes into play. If this, then that. If that, then this. So that's the basis of like automation. If this happens, I want this to happen. And that's the basic of coding. So just understanding that thought process, you still can use AI within that to say, oh, listen, I don't understand coding, but explain to me, I want this to be done, create a code, and then just by basic understanding, I can mirror what needs to happen. So that's one of the crucial skills. And be understanding organizational structures, how work works. So this is where all my 14 years, 14 roles came into play because now I had a solid understanding of um, the corporate world. What is most important to corporate people? What is most important to the client? Because I'm serving both stakeholders and clients. So that has helped me so much and prepared me for this role because this role, it's such a good role, Coach Naz. Like I'm enjoying it. It pays well. I'm able to attend my a morning radio show and still have work later on. You know, it's really nice.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into that role. Yeah, and
Good.
what it takes to excel in it. You know.
If you've just tuned in, I am online chatting to on youth unemployment in South Africa. This is Career Talk on Career Indaba, where we are having a Career Indaba Impact Week, focusing on boardrooms and creating opportunity for live jobs to be shared on this platform. Career Indaba is a platform that allows for the unemployed youth and companies who want to make a difference, to bring about positive change, to inspire, to give us solutions that we not be aware of. It's a platform connecting a gap in the market. So please, if you are out there as an organization in the government, education institute, please us with solutions for the youth. I'm joined by Ozzy today, who has got, created himself against the odds. He could have sat and been the victim of his situation. He could have said, oh, shame, look at me, blame the government, and sat with a CV and hoping someone else was going to come and take his CV and drive it for him. Instead, Ozzy took himself and decided, hey, I need to take accountability and responsibility for my life. What am I going to do? He connected with HR people. He built his CV. He's built his profile and built a name for himself in all the places he worked. He chose to show up instead of just dissolve himself in the victim mindset. And that is, for me, already is such an inspirational story. So thank you for sharing that as well. I do know Ozzy on a personal space. So I know a little bit more about the journey behind the scene, hence did him to be a guest on my show and to inspire youth with his story. And yes, the one thing I'd love to talk as Ozzy, you know me as you know, in my coaching well, because I do life coaching to ignite the inner light in humans. And the one I'd like to address is when people are in that imposter syndrome mode, and this applies to everyone, not just the youth. I tap more into how you overcome the fears. Like, what is the vulnerable side if you don't? But when you are in that fear, and how you actually shift yourself from that fear into a space of, oh my God, I need to wake up. Because let's be honest, when we are facing unemployment and that, you know, that confidence that I'm not good enough, I don't know enough, no one's going to hire me, because all they ever say is I don't have experience. That's all you hear. So there's lots of people there who have studied, who have degrees, etc., but they still cannot find a job, or they are taking jobs that's outside of what they studied, their real passion. I want to delve into that because I think it doesn't get spoken a lot about. We're always talking from the image. Like earlier, I mentioned Oprah Winfrey. It's not quite relatable to a lot of people because they didn't have a journey that she went through to get to where she is. Okay, me as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't handed over life. I created life. So hence I'd like to have those real conversations because this is where the voice is. And I think to a large extent with where we are in the world, with social media kicking in, it also supports this fake image that we're living. So a lot of times what we're posting and what we're living are very different realities. And it
Yes.
puts this unconscious pressure because we're not being authentic to ourselves. And we're trying to live
Mm,
up to a world that doesn't align with us, if that makes sense. So
yes.
if you can just touch on that a bit, what has been your experience and how you shifted your mindset? Tell us about the days when you sat in bed and not wanting to move, where you were so down and low, if you had those
That,
times. I want to hear
whoa.
those stories because that's relatable and not
Yeah.
spoken about enough.
Yes. So along the journey, I've said I've gone for months without work, without anything to do in life, like where I've done everything. And it starts from 1 month, then 2 months, 3 months, you're fine. Fourth month, the depression hits. You start feeling at the fundamental level useless. What's even worse is
Sure.
when you go right now, like the outside world is telling you that the unemployment levels are high, right? That's the
Yes.
outside world.
Yes.
But you log in online, you log in on LinkedIn, you logged in on Indeed,
Yes.
all the job sites. There are thousands and thousands of jobs every day. So as much as you don't understand the full picture of what's happening, you are seeing the jobs and you're seeing your reality that I don't have the job. And that messes so much with your confidence in self. That messes with your imposter syndrome because you're sending thousands and thousands of CV. And the most common thing you see reply is email comes in. Unfortunately, that
Dear
crushed
John.
me. That would crush me so much. I made a bookmark of all the jobs applications that would come in so that they just go to that. And it has over like 1,000 emails, like responses from Indeed. It crushes you so much because now you feel fundamentally useless in a world where you log into social media right now. You see people that are doing way better with way less than you have. So now you're thinking, am I the problem? And it's you get so depressed that you start isolating yourself from life. You start isolating from anything that reminds you that you suck, quote unquote, you suck as a person. You don't, but you feel that way. So now I've
Yes.
isolated myself. I am just in my house. I don't want to talk to anybody. I can't even go out because going out means money is involved. It's affecting my friendships. If it's affecting my relationships, even because now I'm saying, no, I'd rather be alone. I've broken up with people simply because I didn't feel able in a relationship. I was like, I don't have money. So what am I doing here? I can't provide for anything. So even within my own masculinity, it got so crushed. Like I was like, I am useless. I'm just wasting air. And you start having this negative voice over and over because now it's just you. There's no one else affirming anything outside of that. So it becomes like a very hot, deep hole to get out of because one, you now start to feel like it's just you. It doesn't matter like how other people, even in your next peer could might not have a job, but at some point you find this small comparison to say, but they are this, but they are this, and those so small comparisons, as much as they are small, in that state they are very big. And I even thought about people that have degrees, how much it's way worse for them because you have this degree that you worked
Yes.
for, and now
Yes.
but you don't understand, as much as you're being told there's no unemployment, you don't understand why it's happening to you, because in that world it's your world, and in your world you are the only one who doesn't have a job because you do see everything else around you. So it was a very tough time for me. Lots of tears in the background. You
Wow.
you have times where you just cry, and you're trying to toughen it out. And now you also have black text, which is like a big thing where there's an expectation on you to help out. But it's difficult. First month is easy. I don't have a job. But by month 8, it somehow feels like it's an excuse because it's like, why don't you have a job? And even yourself, you can't explain it to yourself.
Mm,
So now that brings in the imposter syndrome where you're not feeling good enough. And the biggest thing that I had a friend who taught me this is, Oz, give yourself grace. They normalized it to me to say, listen, all of us, the unemployment, do you understand when we say the unemployment rates in this country, on this continent, is a very high. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand the amount of people that they are, the youth, in terms of population? This is not isolated. It's not unique to you. There is no jobs. So that gave me a sense of calm and shifted the mentality to say, listen, the system itself, fundamentally, there is something wrong within the system that I'm in. So that just gave me the leeway to say, okay, I can give myself grace and a bit of strength to keep pushing. So that normalized a lot for me. But I still had the imposter syndrome now of my skill set because I'm like, my skills I have and the amount of time I've spent without a job means my skills are not enough. They are not enough. Even if they were, in my head, I just then went to the conclusion that my skills are not enough. I am not enough. So even when I get into the role, when I'm discussing salaries, I shy away from it. I'm like, no, just give me the job. We, pay me
mhm,
how much ever you want, and I'm downplaying myself and my skills and what I offer to the table. So the one thing now I saw was the biggest remedy of fighting imposter syndrome. Instead of looking at what you don't have, look at what you have done. Look at your successes. Be able to look back and say, wait, but for people that got the degrees, look at back and say, wait, but I got this degree. I actually went through 3 years, 4 years, and got this degree. So that means I am capable to start with. They don't just give this degree out for free. For me, it was looking at every certificate that I got and saying, wait, why am I downplaying that I have a certificate in SQL? I learned how to do code SQL language by myself, and went and just did the exam and I got it. So that means I know something. I know a thing or two. Then I started looking at my work. Document all your successes. Like even if they seem small, I started having journaling my successes. So if I'm successful with something, I journal it. I put it up on LinkedIn and as a win, because those small wins are so important. We take them for granted, but when the imposter syndrome comes knocking at the door, I was now able to sit and say, whoa, I actually know what I'm doing. I've accomplished some things. I'm in the season where I don't have a job, but it doesn't mean I don't know. And I started slowly accepting that, listen, this is what the system is. How then can I rise above that with the same imposter syndrome?
Mhm.
But it doesn't
Absolutely.
stop. Those are things that help to get you back on
Yeah.
your feet so that you can
Yes.
keep trying. Because the biggest failure is when you completely stop, and you stop without giving yourself grace. You just stop, you give up, done. That's where failure is. That this gives you that ability to say, okay, let me go. Now you have that ounce of confidence. Use it. When it comes and you remind yourself, wait, I am that guy. I did do that thing one time. I was the one that got promoted into accounts clerk before I was even an accounts clerk. I knew anything about that industry. So I'm
Yeah.
taking that as a win. I'm like, clearly I have something. Let me show up. And what I've learned about corporate, and I don't say this from downplaying what the hard work that goes with every individual, but what I've seen about the general human existence is we all don't know everything. We all don't know exactly what it is we're doing. We are just showing up every day based on
Yeah.
what we have learned and
Yeah.
applying it every day to where we're going into the future. So that also gave me grace, like, whoa, we all don't know. Like let's get in. We're all discovering. The point is you're
Yeah.
showing up every day with
Ab-
the willingness to discover self. So those were the things that started helping me fight the imposter syndrome. I started looking at my wins and said, yes, but I have developed the websites that work and that convert. And that then helps you shape your my inner narrative, because now my inner narrative is changing from I suck to wait, I have sucked, but I am good at what I'm doing. And slowly it turns into more confidence. And I started leaning on that confidence a bit more. If I sit in an interview, I'll tell myself, this is can only go two ways. One, I'm meeting this person for the first time in my life. If it sucks, I forget about them, they forget about me, I move on with my life. I have nothing to lose. I started having that mentality. You know what? I don't have anything to lose. The worst that can happen at this point is you telling me no. I've already have emails with thousands and thousands of no. What's your no gonna do to me? That was now my approach. So I then told myself, if I sit in an interview, let me be whoever I want to be. For that
Awesome.
1 hour, I am
Coach.
gonna be I'm gonna be a pilot in my head, and I'll speak from a confidence of a pilot. I'm not gonna lie and say I've flown a plane, but the energy behind how I present myself is was for that 1 hour. I know you've been depressed for the whole week, but for that 1 hour, let's have that strong cup of coffee. Let's get in there and let's just be. Let's just practice. You know, practice makes perfect. So I was using interviews for practice sake. I'm just getting in there and practicing, and they'll be like, "Let's see the work." I don't have the work, then I know I'm not getting this job. But I just am showing up. So that's what helped. And the other thing that's really big when it comes to imposter syndrome, community. Build
So,
community. Yeah.
Ozzy, can we come back and touch on that one when we're back? We're just going to cut to a quick ad
Yeah.
break and we'll be back continuing with this inspirational story with Ozzy. You on Career Talk, www.careerindaba.org.
The
Awesome.
conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba, Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works.
Welcome back to Career Talk. I'm your host, Coach Naz, joined by my guest, Ozzy, who's sharing his inspirational stories. If you've just tuned in, this is Career Indaba. This is our Career Indaba Impact Week, where we are focusing on bringing those jobs live to the youth of South Africa and Africa. If you're a company out there, please connect with us and share stories on how we can inspire the youth and drive that over 40 unemployment number to a much lower rate. We spoke earlier on the show about the ripple effect that this has. It's not just an emotional impact on individuals, it's impacting our country as a whole, the economy, it's impacting communities and families. It's leading to higher drugs, etc. This is the impact of unemployment. Daba is here to support that and change that, bring the positive spin, different perspectives, different ways of thinking, because change starts with each individual. The question is, are you ready to be the change you want to see in the world? And how do you drive that? Today, I have Ozzy joining with his inspiration story and how he created himself against the odds. Later on in the show, we will also be touching on techniques that can help you grow, help you create something different. What I found in my journey as an unemployed youth once upon a time in my life is that you either get stuck in the story, into a lot of people, and that becomes your reality. And sometimes, in order to bring change, to create something different, you need to break away from the norm. I remember being unemployed in KZN, where the job markets and opportunities was much lesser versus Johannesburg. I made that decision that I'm moving to Johannesburg, I remember all the the input you get from different people. No, it's so expensive, it's so big, you're a female, you're never going to make it there, bread is so expensive, rent is so expensive, etc. And I listened to that, and had I actually followed that thinking, I would still probably be there and never found my full potential as an individual. I did come here against all odds, faced a lot of challenges to get here and to create myself. And today I am a person who has created herself, who now inspires a lot of people to do the same and to drive that. And that comes from life experience. Like Ozzy shared earlier, the challenges that he faces in terms of, when you're in that low motivation, depressive, getting all these rejection letters. What I've learned through life experience as well, sometimes rejection is nothing, because it's actually pushing you to find something else and to accept your skills and talent. And it's all about perception, your perception. Ozzy could have sat in his teapot and never woke up in life. However, he sat with that. He knew that my fears and doubts are sitting here. He knew that he didn't have all he needed. So he took initiative to create opportunities for himself. We continue this discussion with Ozzy and the inspirational story. I'm going to ask another question, Ozzy, because
Yep.
you're also a DJ. So what led you into DJing? It's a very different spin. You find the
Yeah.
balance. You're very driven. And I think that's also something that could inspire the youth to see that you don't have to just do one thing. I'm also very much like you.
Yes.
I have my hands in different things because I love a lot of different things and creating different opportunities for myself. So please share that journey,
Yeah.
what led to the DJing part of it.
Yeah. So early on, as I said, stated in my journey, I realized I am a creative at heart. And when I turned 25, I'd noticed how much of my youth had gone to the pursuit of surviving, that I never took the time and chance to actually nurture the things that I desired to do. So when I turned 25, I started preparing for my 30s. And I said, I'm going to create a checklist of all these things I want to do and want to do. And I somehow gave an excuse because, oh, you can't be a DJ because you got to look good for their parents. You got to be in the right path. There's all these thoughts and what do you call it, stereotypes around like being a DJ, right? So I was so concerned about it. Let me be the good kid that I at 25 I noticed how much I'd missed out on life, and I didn't want to be that 35-year-old uncle who is still doing young things. And I'm not saying like some of these things are like that, but for me, I was like, no, no, there's a time and place, and I am growing, and I need to be aware that I'm growing. So When I had managed to secure myself job wise, I was now working in a startup. I'd done a bit of freelancing and I felt comfortable with the life I was building. I was like, let me actually now invest some of that back into myself, into find a creative outlet outside the confines of work. Because when creativity in work and creativity outside of work are very two different energies, the other one is like targets, targets, targets. Doesn't allow you to be free to create properly. You know, you're meeting deadlines. So I was like, I need to find creative outlets, and DJing just happened to be one of them. So I was like, let me do a 6 months. No, it was a 6 week DJing course. I went and I did it, and next thing you know, I just started like DJing. And early on, I was DJing for fun. Like someone would say, a free gig, sure, just put me on. I was just happy to be there. And then I learned about the gig economy, and I saw it's a whole different economy, and people are making livelihoods from the DJing space, from going out. So for some people, it's a way of making money. It's a way of employment. And it made me respect that scene more because it changed my eyes. It was no longer just the outside we see where people are showing up, they're playing music, people are drinking. You know, it changed my entire view of that world because I started being in a community where you sit down, as much as people are grooving and enjoying life, people are sitting down and talking about real life issues, especially in the space of Afro House, Afro tech industry. People build communities around that. Some people are working, deals are being made, money is moving, especially in Joburg. Like there's so much that's going on within that space that it opens up you dynamically. You start to see life differently, you know. So that was like an interesting space in that I got to even learn more of my strengths to be in front of people, being, I don't know, quote unquote, the spectacle, right? It was daunting for me at first, but I was like, oh, this is nice. I'm now learning about being in front of people, and being a people's person. So the gig economy is very interesting in that, like, it's always flowing. Like, you don't have a monthly salary. So it teaches you, one, you need to be a very responsible human being because your cash flow isn't consistent. It's this weekend you make money, or this season you make money. Then July comes, it's winter, no one is going out, cash flow is gone. Saying that, you have to be smart. What else can I do? Now you're approaching like companies, like stores, like a Nike store, and you're like, oh, do you guys need a DJ? I can blend music for you for like 2 hours every week. And now you've got like a gig you're doing, you're getting paid for an hour, like 1,000 rand, 2,000. And what's nice about DJing, it teaches you that you are responsible for your price tag. There's no HR in DJing. So you get in there, you have to believe that you are worth X amount, and you have to confidently ask for that X amount. Same as me, I believed I should just DJ for free. For that first 6 months of me DJing, I was just DJing for free. Then I learned, oh, wait, you can actually say you have a rate and they'll pay it. And you learn that the money is there. Do you want it? And are you able to say, guys, this is how much I'm worth? And are you able to excel and improve on your skills, that it becomes something you can actually make a livelihood from? And there are so many, it's not just the DJing, there's so many things connected to the DJing that it's crazy that you can find your space. Being a promoter, for example, even the girlies that show up to be able to help with sales, that's all things in there that are like you can do and make money off of. So it has been an interesting journey, and sadly right now it's in a balancing act where I'm like, how do I take this further on? But as a creative outlet, it really showed me where my passion lies, with how I can apply all these creative things in my head. Even storytelling, I used to do like a lot of storytelling. I ended up doing this French festival where I did like a Bantu Space Wars thing, so it was nice. It's been a nice experience in itself, and it introduces you more to the world and more people, shows you different lifestyles beyond what you think is just the norm. And you meet so many people today, you're grooving, tomorrow they are the CEO of some company. You're like, wait, we are allowed to do that. We're allowed to be diverse in how we're experiencing life and still be holistic in who we are. Because as soon as you say DJing, people think you are doing crazy things 24/7. Like just yesterday, I had a gig. Today, I'm sitting down, and it's like no more day at work. So it's an interesting um, economy. Let's call it that. Yeah.
Wow, we got to continue chatting with Ozzy. If you've just tuned in, you are live with Career Talk on careerindaba.com, where the focus is about turning negative situation into a positive space to create and create impact in the world, to reduce the unemployment rate from 40% to a much lower rate. We as individuals and as a community can bring this change about. Let's start with awareness. Let's start with a different attitude and perception on this. As individuals out there, how are you driving change in your life? I think for companies, for government, for the leaders of our country, it's no longer about just finding solutions, but it's how do we ignite an entire generation, the future of our, help them with this emotional wellness, fears, doubts, etc. I think a lot of the youth of today don't actually, because technology has taken over, they don't have that emotional intelligence to just shift their space. With all the knowledge on their fingertips, how do I actually move from fear to doubt? Like Ozzy, you are one of the people that I know in your age, in your age group that has got this drive and passion to bring that shift. A lot of people lack self-confidence. And when you are lacking self-confidence, it's very hard to shift yourself from that space into positive. And you like, oh, because you made it, you telling me what to do. I hear that very often. Like, you don't know how it feels. Actually, I do know how it feels.
Yeah.
I have not landed myself in a soft, cushiony place. I created it for myself. I work very hard in the back end of my life to create that. I work on, you have to also review your life. But we are going to cover more of this as the show unfolds. Stay tuned, and we will be back shortly. You are tuned in to Career Indaba, where we are driving positive change in the youth unemployment in Africa.
If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. You're listening to Career Indaba Radio, the voice of Africa's labor market. Real voices, real change, real opportunity. It's more than just an expo. It's a blueprint for Africa's future. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center. 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, 20 bootcamps. Career Indaba, where skills meet opportunities.
Welcome back to Career Talk. This is your host, Coach Naz, joined by her guest, Oz, and we are talking about youth unemployment, taking a different spin of how you take your power back. It's not about blaming, it's about taking control and saying, how do I create my life differently? If you've been tuned in, or just joined, Ozzy has shared his inspirational story of how, against all odds, he created his magic. He is in the digital automation, creating websites, etc. space, because he has the creativity from a marketing point of view, from a design point of view, but he also DJs in his spare time, should I say.
Time. Yeah.
Or creates this for that. He's forever growing. He's forever connecting with himself to learn, grow, and evolve. And under the age of 30, he has already experienced, I think it was 14, if it serves me, 14 different
14.
roles.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think like from the tradition, and this is your traditional breaking away from the traditional ways of employment. I think for the older generation tuning in, we like, what, 14 positions? How crazy is that? You work at a company, you stay in a company, and it's about loyalty. And I think the youth of today have a very different approach to that. It's about tapping into different things, learning what you want, and then creating from there. It's no longer about staying in a company for 10 odd years. And the impact that has on companies is also very important. How are you handling this new generation and the way they are driving their lives? That's a very interesting one. So if you have comments or anything on that, please send through questions, comments, etc. on that. So, I just like to talk about the initiative of what Career Indaba is trying to do. They are trying to connect youth to solutions, really. It's bringing a positive spin on something that's actually starting to drain our company, our economy, our youth, our communities. It's impacting on crime. It's impacting on mental wellness, emotional wellness throughout Africa, not just in South Africa. So it's a great initiative, and we are looking for people to come on board and support this, to support us, to support the youth, to support South Africa. Please connect with us via www.indaba.org, and let's see we as a nation can drive positive change. Earlier, Ozzy spoke about the vulnerable side of the fears and doubts that he faced, low confidence, etc. And we just mentioned that it's to move yourself from a low vibration into a higher vibration. And now I'd like to have a discussion, Ozzy, I'd like for you to also share with me on how we actually move ourselves from there. He did share some tips. It's about knowing your worth, knowing that you did create, because it's very easy to forget the things that you do create, how you stand out, etc. And how do you then shift from that low vibration into a more positive space? So from a coaching point of view, I am faced with clients who are facing this unemployment or in a low confidence space. The question I'm asking is, you have to be authentic with how you're feeling. So if you're feeling scared, it's okay to be
Good.
scared. It's okay to be frustrated, but it's not okay to start drowning in that and taking on the identity. I'm an angry person. I blame the government. I do this, etc. Right? So the question is, how do you use your vibration? And this starts with self-awareness. So my question as a coach to everyone listening out there is, when you are in a low vibration and you are sitting and blaming everybody, how is that changing your life? So if I had to sit and blame, Ozzy didn't do this, Ozzy is not helping me find a job, it's because of Ozzy that I get the job, I have the degree, but they get to Ozzy. If I'm going to sit in that space, how am I actually going to shift my reality? Ozzy also shared earlier on comparison. He found himself comparing to other people. When we're comparing to other people, you are actually rejecting your own self. You are saying, I'm not good enough. I don't have something worthwhile to share. My take on this is, you have a unique gift that you need to bring into the world. And if you are going to sit and compare to everybody else, you are not going to find and step into your uniqueness. So now it's about asking the right questions and asking. So if you want to stay in the victim mindset, is that going to serve what you want to create for your life? How are you going to build the life you desire if you sit in a space of victimization, if you give your power away through blame? So let's look at the word blame as a starting point. Blame ends with M-E, not government, not other people, not your parents, etc. I often say this to my coaching clients, but it's something to really ponder on. If you are blaming, you are pointing the finger to somebody else. And in that moment of blame, you are giving your power away. And all of the people who have inspired me in my journey to where I am today started off with nothing. And what changed was the mindset. Their mindset and a decision to drive their life in a different way. And when you make that, you have to ask, how are my current choices and decisions actually the life I want to create. I'm joined with Ozzy today, who has shared some of his stories on how he created himself against all of the odds. So, Ozzy, from your own experience and being in that space and still being very much youth market, how do you think what advice would you give the shift from that low confidence space into facing imposter syndrome and then creating and finding confidence levels? What advice would you give the youth?
Yeah, it really is a tough subject because it's sometimes the blame is nice because at least it makes you feel less like you suck and you're terrible as a person. Other times also we want to take our responsibility of holding the institutions accountable to the state that we are in. But what I've also learned is there's so much you can do that's outside of you to
Yes.
bring change, but everything will always affect me at the basis of whatever pyramid it is. I'm the one that's being affected by the weight of the failure of the self imposter syndrome. Um, so I really, when you shared the blame and with me, me, it really was something that really also changed my life in terms of like when you were coaching me in that regards, where I started to see how accountability is a big game changer. Because the moment I, one, accept what is or what I think is within the my hands of responsibility, I'm able to say, wait, so if it's something that's on my plate, this is my plate. How can I, with the power that I have in me, get myself out of that particular situation? So, like you're saying, the mind shift is where the greatest importance and emphasis should be on, because most of these battles, imposter syndrome, it's a mind battle. It's not something you sit with and then you see the syndrome sitting in your house. Everything else, your external reality, is just like something that's being built within your internal. So even when you're depressed and life is going bad, like you see your house is messy. Your house isn't just messy because the house started being messy. It's more you lost a mental battle to show up and clean your house even. So now you have to understand that at fundamentally, before you start looking at everything that's wrong with the world, fundamentally go into the inner world. What beliefs am I still holding on to be true about myself? And that requires a certain delicacy of both being honest to a point where one, it's helpful for you to get out of the dish, but also not too honest where now you are using negative words like placing I am bad, I am terrible, I am useless. You don't want that to be a truth that's true. You're not useless. You are in a position where you aren't able to be as useful as you would like to be. So now you're changing the narrative internally. And once you do that, what usually happens, you start to see opportunities differently. So, whereas before you would have seen a no as the conclusive decision in life and you've taken the L, now, like you were saying, you're starting to see rejection as redirection. Now you're starting to inquire, wait, they said no, but why? Okay, this rejected me. Maybe is it for me or is it not for me? So now I used rejection to help me guide my path because I'm like, clearly this is not for me. Clearly I'm not qualified for this. So instead of asking, wait, do I want this role first of all? If I'm not qualified, what does it take for me to be qualified? All right. So now it's redirecting my path. So I'm taking the L's, I'm changing my perception to say, okay, the no's basically mean that thing was not for me, or that thing there's more I need to learn to grow in order to understand, in order to get to the thing that I want and desire, right? And being honest with your desires as well with your why. Why do you want to work in the first place? Because like that's very important. You want to work just simply to provide. And any answer you come up with for myself, any answer I would come up with within that season, as long as it was enough to help me show up, it was good. Sometimes it was like, I just want to work so I can buy a new phone. That's my motivation within that time. So I'd know the work I'm willing to accept it do is I've put placed a value to say, okay, this is my why. And eventually your why grows as your ambition grows. Because I think what sometimes is daunting is we look at our why, and our why has to be big in that I want a house, I want to get married, I want to feed my family. Those are things that weigh on you because you are not in the capacity to do all those things. Sometimes even the smallest of things is enough to really help. But it's a very intricate thing. I've seen there's no one answer. Different seasons require a different answer to that question you just asked, because it's like how you're showing up in that season. It is a different requirement in terms of what you need to deliver. But I think it's very starts being inquisitive of yourself and being honest with where you
Of
are
yourself.
and where you want to go. Yeah.
I think a lot of people struggle with that. Very often we are living everybody else's expectation. So as youth as well, the pressure is so much more with technology that's taking over. You've got AI coming through. You've got, like in terms of when you're growing up, it's depending on your families, etc. They would be like, oh, you need to become a doctor, a lawyer, a this and that. That's not really your calling. You want to be a DJ, and you thinking like, but if I don't do
Yeah.
this, I'm going to dis. And I think so. All these emotional things that put pressure on a person to not step in their identity, and very often we also hear of people who've studied, like say they started to be a doctor, etc. But at some point a year later, they were like, no, this is not for me. I can't do this. And it's
Mm,
because I think, as I would like to reach out to the parents out there as well, you have to also allow your child to be or get to know what they help them to find their strengths and weaknesses, and approach it in a way where we're not living to satisfy society expectations, but we are at that individual. Because in the long run, if they are not living their truth, at some point they're going to give up on this image and go in
mm,
search of their, because we're trying as youth, we're trying to fit into a box so you can belong. And these are all the conversations that disconnect us from ourselves. Okay, with my life coaching side of things, I am all about let's get real. Let's talk about what you are feeling and who you are. And very often people are like, tells you who you are. So you don't even know how to start the journey of knowing who you are. And these are kind of that we take. What I like with is I know a lot of people who spend hours scrolling through TikTok, through Instagram, etc. But they are scrolling through other people's lives instead of looking for inspiration and the free courses. So Ozzy, you are in the space of digital. You're a lot more clear than I am when it comes to that. Google offers free courses, YouTube if you Google right, etc. Which platforms can offer free courses for the young youth out there that they
yeah.
can upskill on building confidence, on digital skills, if that's what they want? But there's so many. Obviously, Ozzy is in the digital space, hence I'm asking if you can share with us,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. Oh, so in terms of we live in a very amazing time where knowledge has become more and more accessible. Coach.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can hear you. So yeah, we live in a times where like a lot of knowledge has become more and more accessible. So I remember even like Elon Musk, even like Tesla, Google, Amazon, they're starting to not to like degrees are no longer like a primary requirement for getting a job, because it's more so can you prove you know what you know, because knowledge
Yeah.
is becoming more and more accessible. You have a phone, you have access to knowledge. Laptop, you have access to
Yeah.
knowledge. So there's so many platforms. Like it's actually is crazy how many there are. It's a matter of are you willing to learn. One of my go-to platforms,
I'm
I've got a
willing to
degree.
learn. Yes.
Yeah, It's your willingness, wherever you
Yeah.
want. Uh, yeah. So one of the platform I used that had a bigger dent in all the short courses I taken is a platform called Allison Courses, where I did a diploma in digital marketing for free.
Hmm.
The only thing I had to end up
Wow.
paying for was the actual certificate. I think it was like about $10 US. But even then, you don't need to pay it, because as long as you can prove that you know what you know, it's way easier than um, before, where the only proof you had was, hey, I have a degree. Now it's a matter of skills. Can you show that you know what you know? So Allison courses, Udemy, sometimes you get discounts. There's Coursera as well. It's really good for zoned in courses. You can take a boot camp, 6 week boot camp, and you learn like a language, and you're off to use it. Um, so it's the world is endless. You type whatever you want to learn and say free course. Like at the end, just Google yourself, type the name of whatever it is you want to learn, the thing, type free courses at the end. You will find so much material. ChatGPT is something that's become a game changer. Use it. DeepSeek. Say, hey, these are the list of things I want to learn. Find a job that you want, put it into ChatGPT and say, how can I get to this job and learn these skills? What's the fastest way? What's the longest way? Based on your learning, how you understand yourself, cater it to your strengths. I only have 2 hours a week to learn. Cater this so that by this time I'm able to learn. Point me to where I need to go to learn. It'll create something beautiful
Wow.
where now you're able to know, I need to pick up this skill. Go on YouTube, watch a video. That's a form of learning, because all you need is to pick up and make sure you understand the skills, and then do different questions, build a portfolio, depending now with your industry. If you're in the media space, digital media space, next thing naturally is build your portfolio. Find a website, someone's favorite website that sucks. I also did a video on LinkedIn one time. I posted on LinkedIn. I didn't have a job in December, so I found this website that I was like, this website sucks, and I literally just did my own personal rebrand and refresh. I posted a video detailed about it. That helped me get clients because people could see the work. Oh, he knows what he's doing, but no one came and asked me for a degree. Do you have a degree in this? No, no, the work spoke for itself. So
Mhm.
we live in a time where there's endless possibilities in terms of what you can learn,
Exactly.
and it's just, are you
Exactly.
taking the initiative to do so? Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing all those platforms. I hope you had your notebooks out, and I hope you're
Yeah.
taking notes as Ozzy is sharing how he changed his life against the odd and created himself his, and he continues to do this, to evolve and grow every single day in knowing who he is. The digital
Yeah.
age has made it possible to learn, create, and earn from anywhere. So imagine
Yes.
what happens when millions of young people across South Africa and in their own power, when they start building small businesses, learning new skills, collaborate. That's the ripple effect that we want to chase after. From unemployment to unstoppable, from waiting for change to becoming the change. And as you can hear today, if you've been tuned in for the entire show, is it all starts with you, your choices, your. I personally have businesses, in my personal capacity, and a business where I was employing young people. But the vision of that business, that particular, was to inspire and change lives and give opportunities to the youth. Struggled with was the attitude of the people given the opportunity. It's such a firstly, I think you have to zoom a person into opportunities. Not everybody is ready to receive it. I had a lot of lessons. And from there, it was also touching on what we're saying. It comes down to your own attitude and drive. When someone's giving you the opportunity, you are expecting them to change your life. And the one story that really inspires me is one of the ladies that I did hire. She actually helped me grow that business and take it to the next level. Attitude that drove me as the owner of the vision. When she joined me, it was her first day with me. I was like, I have to be somewhere else. The keys are in the drawer. Open the business and run with, see what magic you create. That was literally her first day with me. 4 years later, the business has evolved, it has grown, And to this date, she's no longer with the company because life changes happened with her. I'm still very much in
Mm,
contact with her, and I always tell her, if ever you need to do something, stay in touch with me, and we create opportunities. But what drove that was her attitude. She came in, she was young, she was scared, she had the doubts, she had all of that. We spent time training her, etc. But she would step up. Her, okay, this is how you do it. But she'll go and spend hours on YouTube, still, like, how can I do this better? And she had studied, she had the qualifications, etc. But she didn't have all the experience. And that
mm,
story, like, I share with other young ladies that's to joining the team, etc. And within 2 years of being with me, based on her attitude, based on her loyalty, her dedication, etc., she had increased her salary about 3 or 4 times within 2 years with me. In the
wow.
effort, business was growing, and as the business was growing, so was she. But that was
Mm,
purely her attitude, and I can't say that for all the the other employees I had that joined. And what I
mm,
found was, it came to, like, some people will resign in it with the days, knowing that this was a service industry that needed you to then deliver and meet clients' expectations, and they would just resign. What I like to inspire the youth of today is, it's about how you show up for yourself
yeah.
and what you want to show the world you are. The one bit of advice I can give you is, you know who's observing you. So at one point, Ozzy was a waiter in his journey, right?
Mm,
I could have been a businesswoman that loved his attitude and said, you know what? I noticed that you do this and this. I have a customer service management position that I'd like to offer you. Because you
mm,
don't know you. You really don't. I learned this a few times. I've also seen people actually push the opportunity right out of their hands because they didn't know that they were being observed for something. So there's
yeah.
not about how other people are going to help you. It's about how are you going to help yourself and step up into the very best version of yourself. And I often say that it's not only about talk, it's about action. A lot of people will say, oh no, I want to do this and I want to do that. 10 years later, they're still wanting to do that. They haven't taken the steps. Earlier, you mentioned something about failure. And I think that perception of failure needs to change. In my opinion, there's no such thing as failure. There's just an opportunity learned on how to do it differently. And as people are
Mm,
stuck in fear of failure, that they actually don't make a move. So my thing is, you stand at the bottom of the staircase, look at the first step only, because that's where the journey starts. That's where the journey to
mm,
knowing yourself. But what happens, we often look at the steps and we go all the way to step 100, create fear, we create doubt, and then we don't even take the first step. But it's an opportunity for you to find your weaknesses, to get experience, to fall, and to learn. That's what each step is. What would you like to contribute to that, Ozzy, from your side?
yeah, that was very, very rich. I like how you change the perception on failure. That, yeah, yeah, that is a nugget right there. I think that's
It's
something
a
like
nut.
we all needs to like constantly remind ourselves that there's no such thing as that. And surface level, it's harder to embrace, but like when you really sit with it and allow it to marinate you, you're like, actually, actually, because if you just consider our basic human existence and experience, we all come here not knowing, and we get into a system, and we are also all figuring it out, and that requires sometimes things don't work, and when they don't work, that what's is the basis of us understanding how it's going to work, because now we know what doesn't work. So even in my life now, oh, I know that this doesn't work. I need to then move to then finding out what works based off of that gathered data. So I think that's very interesting is something to sit with. And I like how you mentioned about you don't know who's observing you. that has actually happened multiple times in my career where I was doing all those things, and like you make
Mm-hmm.
a post, there's like no likes, no engagement, nothing. Um, and you think no one's observing you. But like I said, even with this job, she didn't find me on day one. She had seen my profile a while ago, last year in December. We had connected. We were not speaking. When the time came, she remembered that I have someone who fits this profile. She called and she said, "Yeah, no, your profile fits." And in the last two space, I've had two people that have called me and gave me offers based on interactions from a long time ago. And I'm like, I didn't know that interaction was significant to you, to that point where you kept me in mind. So it's very, this is not a core to be performative as well, because I think that would put pressure on me to say perform, perform. This is a core to be authentic in your expressions and understanding that how you are moving has a ripple effect with other people in community. So especially like communities wise, I've seen building takes community. I've always been someone that wants to do things by themselves. Um, and not be a team player. But the more I've seen that like community is what is going to help you build, I've seen that the same people that are observing you are part of that community. Your boss is part of your community
Yeah.
because now you have the mentality of we're getting into this thing to build. That's why it's so important also to really be passionate about the things you want to do, because that will drive
Yeah.
you to say, okay, how can I take initiative in my role? It's no longer, "Ah, I hate this job, boss, Monday," because the cycle is taxing on us. But it's more than when you're in it for a bigger purpose than just yourself and your needs, it's now easier to push forward. And I think this is why when you invited me to the show, I really aligned with the vision of what you guys are doing at Career Indaba, where you are putting the voices, you're calling for collaboration in the space. It's something that I'm like, it really is important because as much as it's I'm me, I need to get a job and whatnot, if the environment around me is also not aligned to help me pave that way, if I'm not getting the right channels, the right spaces to even come and have these stories shared, it makes the journey harder. So what you guys are doing at Career Endeavor, building those connections, it's so vital. Building that community, building that space as a starting point amongst all these spaces. It makes such a big dent in the already competitive unemployment space, stressful space. It just helps a lot. This is primarily why I was so excited to come, because with your vision, also understanding you and what you shared, what you're doing at Career Endeavor, I was like, no, this is beautiful work, and it's an honor to be a part of it because the community aspect of it is so important. Because if all of us
Yeah.
are building roads, are building bridges across the different generations, it makes it so much easier for the journey of existence. I liked how when you said parents should look into investing in their kids, what is it they want to do? Because again, they're helping with the soul purpose journey. If all of us are in alignment with ourselves and all of us are helping that journey, because really it shouldn't be as hard as we have made it out to be. It's still, we can nurture each other. So I do appreciate that work you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Korea Indaba has got an amazing team that's very dedicated to creating this space. Are calling on uh, organizations that can help with that. When we're back, we'll
Hmm.
touch more on this. We'll touch more on how you can find your confidence. We shall be back shortly.
Awesome.
The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Senton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works. You're listening to Career Indaba Radio, the voice of Africa's labor market. Real voices, real change, real opportunity.
Welcome back. You are tuned in to Career Talk on careerindaba.org, where it's all about youth unemployment and bringing a positive spin on how you as individuals and companies can drop the unemployment rate to much lower percentages in SA and across continents. We are very excited to be part of this initiative, and we hope that businesses will connect with us on solutions. If you are working on something that can help youth, bring it to Career Indaba and let's make it known to all of South Africa and Africa that these are the opportunities that's available. From earlier this morning, we have seen that a lot of challenges that the youth face is not knowing where to start. And if you're a company that can inspire that, or an individual that can inspire youth and support them on how to maybe do a CV, I think a lot of times as well, what is happening is we have AI and Chat GPT, and a lot of copy and paste that, and they are completely disconnected. So when you go for that interview, you're already in a low confidence because it's not really representing who you are. So I'd like to touch on that authenticness that you need to bring. So people do not necessarily read a piece of paper. Like Ozzy said, he was the vibe. He brought a different vibe that inspired people to look at him and consider him. It was beyond a piece of paper, a photo, an image, where's your social pages, etc. It had to do with the vibe, tension that he created for himself, and how he moved from that negative space into a magic space, into tapping into his own magic of, I can create this and I can do this. So you as the youth that's listening in today, if you are feeling in a low vibe, you're feeling demotivated, you're feeling like no one's ever going to hire you, how is that vibration going to serve you? Would it not be better for you to step into, how can I empower myself? How can I shift myself? And sometimes it means just getting out of the rut, getting off from in front of the TV or your cell phone and scrolling for hours, and actually just maybe taking a walk and connecting with speaking to different people. A cool tool that I find is having an accountability partner. That helps you to do check-ins, like, hey, I want to actually create this, but I keep procrastinating, for example. And when we look at procrastination, it actually comes from a space of fear and doubt. But in order to shift from that space, you need to then take positive steps to say, how do I create differently? And if having an accountability partner will help you, get that. And you do regular check-ins with what progress have you made. And it doesn't need to be big progress. It can be literally having your CV typed up and saying, hey, Oz, you're my accountability buddy. Please check my CV and let me know how this look feels. Should I have some tweaks in it? And it must represent you. Don't go and get a fancy, you can go and Google CVs, like say in Ozzy's job, and word it exactly. But that's not Ozzy. That is a role. Your CV needs to represent who you are as well. So when you do get the opportunity for the CV, it links. Because very often, if I was employing, if I looked at your CV, I can see qualifications, you come for the interview, and I'm like, I can see that it's not aligned. And you're already shooting yourself. Like, my CV looks so amazing. What happened? What happened is you haven't shown up authentically in who you are, first on paper, and second came in for the interview. I remember me, believe it or not, I had an utter fear of public speaking for most of my life. And in the early days of my career, I would go to the interview real. I'm very authentic. I would say, I don't know this, but I'm willing to learn. And my thing was, I do not do public speaking. I do not do presentations. Do not put me in front of people. Happy to do the work, happy to put the PowerPoint presentation together, but just don't put me in front of people. And I actually did get the job because of my authenticness and my realness. And the things I did know, I confidently said, yes, I do know this, but I don't know this, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn. And like I said,
Mm.
I was unemployed in not in the digital age where opportunities were everywhere. We had to literally go and go to they used to have those internet cafes where you go, they do the dial-up modem kind of a vibe, and I'll make friends and pay them like 5 rand to send 10 email address, my CV to
Yeah.
10 email addresses. I used to literally walk to places so I could save on my taxi money because I needed my tour, whatever it was. But that's how my journey started off. It wasn't just done. And on top of that, I had voices all around me telling me I was a girl, I couldn't do it, these things. And something within me kept changing. And what I did is I got into motivational books. I remember once I moved,
Mm.
held up at gunpoint, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going back home. And everyone's like, you need to come back home. And I remember walking past a secondhand bookshop, and this book found me. And that changed the game for me. It's what you consume that changes your vibration. What shows you choose to watch that changes your vibration. But if you want to spend hours scrolling on mindless videos and streaming, etc., then that's exactly what you're going
Mm.
to create because you are vibrating on that vibration. So today, if you are tuning
Mm.
in and you want to change your life and you've been sitting unemployed for a very long time, I'm telling you, you can change your life by changing your vibration, by changing your focus, by changing your perception, and by tuning in and connecting with things that can help you grow instead of sitting in the blame game. You are not going to create yourself in the blame game. Okay.
Mm.
So the question here is, if you are tuning in and listening at this moment, what do you want for yourself? What do you want to create for yourself? And what steps can you take? Hopefully, something in the show so far has inspired you, but what steps can you take? I often have people will come to me and they're like, Naz, I'm looking for a job. I said, oh, cool. Send me your CV. And if you have an opportunity, I'll take you. And they're like, oh, no, I don't have a CV yet. I'm like, but you're looking for a job? Yes. I said, okay, cool. When you have a CV, can you see what I mean? So young people out there looking for jobs, do you have a CV done yet? One that truly represents you, not an AI one, a real one. Do you have this? Yes or no? Because that's your starting point. If you're using the words, I'm looking for the job, but the government this and society this and companies don't want to hire me, and if you haven't typed, the problem is not the government. The problem is you. Get your CV typed up. Then work on getting to know who you are. Get to know what you want to do. Like Ozzy ventured, he shared in his story earlier, he knew he didn't want to be a waiter. He knew he didn't want to sit behind a desk and do accounts. Something more burning inside of him. Like Ozzy, we all have that something burning. You need to find,
Mm.
and then you need to start igniting the world around you to shift your vibration. Hey, Ozzy, what was one of
Mm.
the most scariest interviews you've ever been for?
Phew.
Can
Oh,
you even remember?
it's yes, yes. There's so many. I'm like, which one? I think it's the more you do the interviews, the better they get. That's one thing I've noticed. But the scariest is two actually come to mind. uh, uh,
Yeah.
because they're two different Osvaldos. So that's why I'm going to highlight these two. So the first one was the one I told you about when I got to work as a till operator. Um, that one was daunting because I didn't have anything to back up anything. I was just, listen, I'm a
Yeah.
human being looking for a job. That's all I could offer right now. I'll do the job. I had on my CV, I work well under pressure. That's like the most common phrase we all
Yeah.
put in our CVs. Yeah. So the reason why I was scary, one, there was a long, long line of people. I was standing to someone who had been in the FMCG industry for the longest. They're like, no, when I was in 1996, I worked in Spar, then I went to Pick and Pay and all of this. So I'm just standing there. I'm like, listen, this is my first time ever in life looking for a job. So I was already uh, well intimidated. And I was also coming to understand myself, right? And in that moment, when you get asked the most daunting interview question ever, tell us about yourself, and you don't know yourself. You're still trying to understand who are you in the grand scheme of the business world. Do I tell them my
Yeah.
hobbies? Do I tell them like you don't know what to say? So that was a very scary interview. My legs were shaking, coach.
Oh,
It
goodness.
was really bad. It was and I didn't even expect to get the job. I was like, this was a terrible, terrible interview. I didn't know even the terms within the industry, even if it's just a tool role. Understanding cash flow, dealing with money was something that was important. So I was shocked when they got me, and part of that was like, no, you are a canvas that we can work on. That's primarily what they helped me with. The second interview that I'd like to highlight, which was more recent, it was last year during this time when I was job hunting when I left my job.
Mm-hmm.
I went into a job where so I'd built websites on WordPress. I knew how to build websites on WordPress. I had my portfolio with WordPress websites. But like I say, like with some of these programs, once you know one, you know all of them. I done some work in another platform called Webflow. So the interview was great. I was trying to be fake it till you make it. Then we had good synergy throughout. I was giving all the right answers. I was alert. I was awake. Till they said, "So, as I really love you, you meet all everything we need. Like you tick all the boxes. So now I want to talk about your portfolio. Can you show me the websites you've done in Webflow, like actual Webflow?" Coach, I didn't have anything, and sure, in that moment, my confidence visibly dropped from I can do this job too. Yeah, I'm not the right candidate for you. And it was so
Oh,
hard because I wanted the job. I was depressed. I was like, Lord, I needed anything and everything in that time. So it was so difficult how to navigate knowing you're not a good fit, but you're so everything in you wanting it because you are in survival mode. And that was really tough on me. Even when it ended, it was like, because getting that interview was my glimmer of hope in this depressive state. So being in getting where you're happy, and you're forcing yourself to be happy in the interview, then you realize you're not going to get the job. I think that was one of the hardest parts because even after that, taking that ill, it's so difficult. It's like, that the voices again in your head start coming to speak, even though you didn't have a chance in the beginning, but it was just difficult in that the fallout after was harder because now I'm like, I don't have anything. I'm out of touch with the industry, etc, etc. You know.
sure. Thank you for sharing. You know what I love is having that vulnerable conversations. I think Korea and
Mm,
Daba is about being real. Let's have those real conversations. Let's see how
yeah.
we bring that change. Youth are sitting because a lot of times so many of the youth are portraying the fakeness, but obviously experienced people can see through that very
Mm,
often. And you want to work, but if a person has a lot of fear, people react differently to fear as well. They respond, their behavior depending on what they created in order to hide that fear takes over.
yes.
And then I can look at that as, oh, you're being rude, you're being abrupt, closed off, you are not doing this, or whatever the case may be. But in actual facts, this person is just drowning in fear. So when companies offer these youngsters, the youth market opportunities, I think it's important to invest in the emotional wellness as well, and not just the degree and qualifications of whatever they studied, but the humanness of what it takes to survive, to communicate. What is communication actually? And those are skills that also lack in the youth market given the opportunities to go within the company, because if you are coming across as rude, then you are not getting offered the. And I think a lot of it comes down to attitude. Fix the attitude to an attitude of I don't learn, instead of pretending
Mm,
I do know, and then also identifying yourself only with your degree, but you skills, you don't have the people skills. you don't have the experience, you haven't really worked on Excel, you're in the corporate environment, and you haven't felt the pressure of delivering on projects, etc. Walk humbly on earth and allow yourself opportunity to learn. Because if you have know everything, you've already closed yourself off from learning. Always approach life. Like, for example, I will tell people we know how to drive, but do we know everything about driving? No. I know how to use Excel, for example, but do I know everything about Excel? No. And as soon as I have an attitude of I know everything, I have been working for years, you can't come here and teach me how to use Excel. I'm already seeing the opportunity for growth. Because
Yeah.
maybe Ozzy knows a shortcut on copy paste, and I've been doing it right click, copy paste, and it takes me an extra half a minute where it could save me time. That doesn't
Yeah.
only apply to youth, it applies to humans in general. It's your attitude that actually drives things. Or if you are going to sit and listen to the world and how challenging unemployment is and feed into that collective consciousness, that is what you're going to create for yourself. It is time to say, how do I create differently? How am I going to
Yeah.
change the game? How do I create opportunities for myself? And maybe you are the next business owner, the next competitor to KFC that's out there. But if you're going to sit in the victim mindset into your potential, not at all.
Yeah.
And fear, I've been on that, on the side of turning down amazing opportunities when I was much younger, because someone saw my potential, but I hadn't seen my own potential at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just think about years ago, I sent a message to one of my greatest mentors, and I said, thank you for always seeing something I didn't see in myself. And I just want to let you know this is where I'm at, where I've grown, what I've created. And she says, Naz, I always saw it in you, but I never did. I was such an insecure person. I was so shy. I hated like speaking to people. I hated my work to be seen, etc. So I just hid time. And then one day I decided I want to overcome my fear of public speaking. I wanted to step into my truth, and I decided to do a course that allowed me to do that. And I promise you,
Mm,
that's where the coach was unveiled to me, and that's where my
mm,
entire started a couple good years ago, right? But now when people meet me, they're like, "You public speaking?" I'm like,
mm.
I did,
Yeah,
and look
you
at where
are.
we are today. A Career Indaba, inspiring the youth and shifting unemployment place. Okay, so this is what happens
Mm,
when you step into your truth. So this
mm,
is Career Talk on careerindaba.org. We are here to connect people, to inspire, to bridge the gap between unemployment and driving positive ripple effects in the youth market through companies. If you are a company that's tuning in, please connect with us and let's drive positive change together. I'm very passionate about being in this. I'm very excited to see what this platform is going to create going forward. If you'd like more information, please go onto www.careerindaba.org to get information, to reach, to share your ideas, to share your fears with us. Let us hear what is impacting the youth, what your challenges are. I know of so many inspirational stories of people who started with nothing and created their lives into something amazing. I'm one of those people that represent that. I'm not anymore, but I was once upon a time
mm.
there. So share that in stories of inspiration. So please connect with us. Let us know we can drive positive change in this market. Ozzy, is there anything else from your side that you would like to share with your journey?
Share. Yeah, you've touched on something very important in terms of um the different, so we're talking about the youth, and then you start talking about like people that are like in the higher ups, the grown ups, and how we can all work together, that journey. And it reminded me of something I think that's lacking. There's a concept called gatekeeping. I've seen it in the career space a lot, where different generations gatekeep from the previous generations, right? So um, it's something we, the youth, hate, because most of us are just asking for the generation that came before us to build bridges so that we can cross. But it seems that in the modern day world, there's a lot of gatekeeping. So it's easy for to have just judged that as the norm. Like to say, we hate gatekeeping, stop it, and whatnot. But where something important happened to me that made me understand aspects of it and possibly how we can work through that is I was working in that startup for 3 years. In my second year, I took a senior role. So I was the senior digital designer. And in that same year, they hired Gen Z straight out of varsity interns, and they were under me. For some reason, I felt so threatened by their existence and their hiring. Somehow there was something in me that was like, they are going to take my job. I'm training them. They're going to be my manager tomorrow. Did I have enough data gathered to actually make this a conclusive decision? No, it was not. But in my head, I was conclusive. I was like, this is what is happening. And suddenly, I noticed in the first 6 months of them being hired, I did this nature of gatekeeping what I know. This is my knowledge. This is my IP. This is no, no. You can't ask me why we do things this way and this way. Just know we do them that way. So there was this element of gatekeeping, and I had to say to myself, I'm like, but why are you threatened by someone who has like zero experience, right? And they just want to grow. Their journey is their journey. Your journey is your journey. And that's when I understood the concept of gatekeeping, why that is. It's a threat. You feel threatened by because you're in survival mode. They need to then say, no, 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 I'll be phased out. For the first time, I felt what it's like to be phased out because I'm a millennial. I'm like on the cusp. They are like hardcore Gen Zs. So they're bringing fresh energy. They are bringing fresh new ideas. At that time, I didn't grasp AI, but they are using AI to streamline something that took me 2 weeks to do. Now they're doing it in a week. Now it's making me look bad. And I understood. I'm like, oh, so it's a mind shift of instead of seeing that as a threat to my work, why not see that as a collaboration between they are able to use new tools. I have the experience of understanding, listen, the website, this is what is important, this is what works in the market. If we meet halfway, I build a bridge to say, with your skills, with my experience, let's meet together to then excel in, whoa, now you're saving me so much time. Now I have an extra week to do other things. Instead of then seeing them as competition, I'm seeing them as elevation into a new dynamic of work. Now, I can understand the new way of work. I can also help them understand with my experience the why behind why we do certain things. So, a good example was Gen Z is very um, inquisitive, they ask a lot of questions as opposed to us, we came into an industry and they told us this is the way we do things. We never bothered to ask, wait, why do we do it this way? We just came, these are the rules, you play by the rules, end of story. Don't question the rules, don't question the status quo. Gen Z comes in with a fresh energy of like, wait, but why? This feels redundant.
But
But
why?
I'm just holding on to, yeah, I'm just holding on to rules. I don't even know. So a good example in how we built websites, you can use pixels as a measurement or you can use percentages. So we came into it and then we were just told that don't use pixels because of the way screens are growing. There was no because. Don't use pixels, we use percentages. They are just better for the screen. They came in that first 6 months and I said, guys, the rules is don't use pixels, use this. And they said, but why? I could not give them an answer for my dear life. Like I knew why, but I also started to ask myself, wait, but why? And that's when I noticed I've been keeping all these rules, but things are changing.
Hmm.
Screens are being standardized a lot more. So that rules has become obsolete, but we are holding on to it without even understanding why. And I started diving deep into why. And then that's when I was in my experience like, oh no, we do this because Apple tends to do their own thing. Windows over there, PCs are doing their own thing. So to make sure we have something cohesive, it made me ask also the questions. And suddenly it made me see the loop, the the holes in the thought patterns where like, oh no, this is obsolete. We shouldn't think like that anymore. But allowing them to question and allowing myself to bring an answer meant we crossed together. I was no longer gatekeeping my knowledge. I was sharing. And
Yeah.
by not gatekeeping, I was opening a bridge where we could collaborate and work together across the different generations. And then it made me start looking at the older generations as well. Now I'm shifting because now I understand their mentality by my by how I'm a threat to their existence. So now it's making me think smarter to say, okay, how do I work with these guys to one, bring in a fresh set of skills that A doesn't threaten them, but also opens that gatekeeping thing to say, hey, I'm also willing to learn from your experience. But look, I have all these new tools I can offer you. You have been doing this thing for so long in the old fashioned way. We are evolving. Now I'm understanding what's important to stakeholders. I'm learning to speak their language. I was even told recently at work where it's like, listen, they would gatekeep if you want to implement a new way of doing things because I don't want to sit. I'm lazy in a good way, in that
Yeah.
there's a faster, smarter way to do it. Let's streamline it. That threatens the older generations. That results them in gatekeeping. So instead of that gatekeeping nature, I'm like, no, no, no. I'm trying to build a bridge here. So that's how I've changed from
Wow.
how do I build my part of the bridge so
Yes.
that the other person on the other side doesn't gatekeep. They can see, oh, I've built a bridge. I want them to also build a bridge with their experience and collaborate. So it's again like blame starts with me, ends with me, like you were saying. Instead of complaining about the gatekeeping, I saw, wait, let me build a bridge so they can see that I want them to meet me halfway. And then
Yeah.
hopefully they can open up and then not gatekeep. But gatekeeping is such a big deal in terms of like
Sure.
what's driving unemployment because everybody's in survival mode. The 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds
True.
are threatened by the 20-year-olds because they're like, if I retire in this economy, is that even feasible? But it's like, no, let's
Yes.
collaborate so that we build together because at some point you are going to rest. That's something within our human existence we just have to come to terms with. You are going to rest. And sometimes that, not sometimes, there's a point where that rest is indefinitively. It's definitively, you are going to rest. Done.
Yes.
So it's like, how then do we get do away with gatekeeping and encourage more collaboration, building bridges between generations? Because that's very important. It shouldn't always
Agree.
be Gen Z versus the boomers versus the millennials. No, no, no. How
Absolutely.
do we pave the way? Yeah, collaboration.
Thank you, Azina. Nice insights. We will be back shortly
Mm.
to wrap up in a bit and to share more tips on how you can drive positive change in your unemployment situation. This is Coach Naz, your host on Career Talk. We'll be back soon.
This is where the impact gets real. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. Live from 27 to 31 October, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. 5 days of bold action, live job bulletins, market access for SMEs, and skills pathways that open doors across Africa. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market.
Welcome back to Career Talk with your host, Coach Naz, and my guest, Ozzy. We are talking about youth unemployment in South Africa and around. The question is, how do you take charge of your life? How do you change within yourself? We have addressed some of the topics on how to take accountability for your life, how to, Ozzy has shared an inspiring story on how he drove change against all odds. Thank you for tuning in. If you are a company that's tuning in, we would love for you to get involved with this Career Indaba initiative to drive and drop the high percentage of unemployment, ripple effect on so many aspects that's impacting the country, mental and emotional wellness, etc. How do we as a nation drive positive change? We'd love to hear from you, please connect with us on www.careerindaba.org, and let's make change possible in a positive way and not drown in the sea of negativity. We are also sharing some on how you can create yourself as individuals. So if you're the employed and feeling hopeless, feeling sad and misunderstood, feeling lonely, I think loneliness is also something that plays here. We are giving tips from life experience that and journeys we have been on how you can change the game, how you change your vibe. So one of the things is taking a blame ends with ME. It's looking at yourself and asking, what have I created to change my situation, to move from the victim mindset into the creator mindset? Have I even typed up a CV yet? Have you? That represents all that you are. And these are some of the things that you need to reflect on. Ozzy, my guest, does a lot of self-reflection from his stories that he's changed from a very young age. He has learned what he enjoys, what he doesn't, where he wants to create his vibe, where he doesn't, etc. And this comes from self-reflection. I would advise getting off your cell phone for a little bit, get into a journal, take a pen and start writing. I want to create the where do I start? What have I done? How do I get this? I think one of the other challenges, Ozzy, is that very often youth feel that it's the same response. Oh, you don't have experience. You got a degree, you don't have experience. So the question here is, how do you get experience? If you want to show the company you're really, really interested, one of the things you could do is volunteer your time to them for free and say, okay, give me a month to shadow somebody in the company. I'm willing to do this at my cost, on my, and this shows initiative to the company who may admire your attitude and offer you something more permanent. It beats sitting at home and feeling sorry for yourself. And in that time, you're also getting working experience. Trust me, working experience is a very different space versus thinking you hold the paperwork for whatever qualifications. It's a different ball game. You have to know how to engage with people, and there's so much more to learn that you don't learn just from studying. So that's one of the things I would advise. Like Ozzy advised earlier, connect with HR on LinkedIn. Make sure your profile is up. Make sure you have your CV ready, and connect with the people who can help you change. How do you stand out? It's not about fitting in and belonging. It's about stepping into your truth and being the change that you want to see in the world. So that is one thing you can do. The other thing is, Ozzy shared a whole lot of websites that you can go that offers skills for free. Scrolling on your phone for 5 hours a day, you have time to do a short course and upskill yourself. If you are going to sit and wait for somebody else to change your life, chances are it's not going to change. It's time for you to take accountability, step into and own your life. Because at some point, it's not your parents, it's not everybody else around you. It is you that has to drive the change in your life. So ask yourself, what is it that I want to create for myself? At Career Indaba, we're also trying to get the government and educational institutes involved in this initiative. Please reach us and help us to drive this change. We would like to hear what other opportunities are out there that we are not aware of. And this is the whole purpose of Career Indaba, is to create a platform where unemployment can be addressed, solutions found, and bring that positive vibe for the youth of Africa, for our future generations, and for our country as a whole, for our economy as a whole. Let's work together to drive this change. Ozzy, anything else from your side?
I think also in the I know we spoke about the websites for finding courses. Um, the other thing I would like to add value in is remote work. So one of the things I'm seeing that's helping mitigate the unemployment rates is how the world is opened up to South Africa in terms of being a favorable destination for remote work. So there's a lot of American companies, especially American companies, UK companies, with what's happening with Brexit, whatever is happening in the landscape of politics, they are looking. Sorry, South Africa has become on their radar for hiring people.
Interesting.
So Yeah, so there's a lot of remote jobs available, like like jobs. There's always many jobs, but one thing I'd recommend people is to look for remote jobs as a start, and they vary in tiers. So there might be someone who's just starting out and you want to work as a virtual assistant, where all you're doing is picking calls. You need to have a mic like this set up. You have like $6 an hour rate, which is like good for someone who's starting out. There's sites like, so just type virtual assistants or remote jobs available in South Africa. There's a lot of hiring companies that are being set up. There's like 24 VA as an example. There is a platform called Cadre Recruitment. There is another platform called Contra, where it's more so for designers. But there's almost like there's a huge market for remote work. I'd encourage people that are still looking for jobs to look for part time. It's very favorable. Some have 10-hour weeks, some are 20 hours, some are full time. It's a good place to really start. Um, is you're starting your career, building up um, your experience levels, because most of them, the most basic requirements is, can you speak well for the international clients? Like, how good is your English? You need just to be speaking well, and a lot of stuff you train. So there's different tiers for everybody where you are. If you want something more serious, again, it's available. But I've seen remote work is really helping in mitigating the unemployment rates within the country. You're able to access a larger market, a larger job market, and that increases your chances. So that's a good place to start for anyone looking, and you've been
Thank you for
struggling.
sharing.
Start with what
Thank you for
work.
sharing that. That is awesome. I hope taken note of all these
Mm,
amazing opportunities that Ozzy has shared. There's also to do part-time work. I remember a time when I wasn't getting jobs. I
yeah.
went and volunteered. They paid me a ridiculously low amount. But for me, it was about the experience and for people to get to know me and for me to also
Mm,
grow. Because I think a lot of times youth don't want to accept that they don't have experience. I know I
mm,
started business venturing from the age of 16. So at the time, I didn't know how to type up a CV. I learned how to type up a CV. Then I started offering my services, my typing CVs to people, just to bring in a small little, do my little things, and not necessarily my parents to provide everything for me. It's what do you want to create for yourself? And I think even now at this space that I'm always reevaluating. What do I want to create for myself in the next 10 years? And I cannot start in year 10 if I want to create that. I need to start now, have a vision what it is that I want, and start taking big steps towards that. Panic in the last minute and go, oh my God, I'm going to be turning this age and I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Have a plan for yourself and then start taking those steps. Do not take rejection as objection is not. It's just like Ozzy said earlier, it's redirection into something. But if you're going to get stuck in the vibration of nobody wants me and I don't have experience, that's the only focus your energy on. And shift that, you have to move to, okay, what is the universe actually trying to take? Where is it trying to take me? Let me see that. I remember when I overcame my fear of public speaking, I stepped into a journey and I started studying and opening up that path for myself. But in addition to that, I think about 2 weeks later, miraculously, if I tell you how the story, I ended up getting offered a trainer job at a software company. From not doing public speaking to doing training, it was one of my favorite jobs. I absolutely loved it. It was so fulfilling because I love changing and inspiring. So that definitely brought, you know, me taking the step to face my fear instead of allowing fear to change me, open up my path to my soul journey, to my truth, to my purpose. So this
mm.
platform is an amazing platform for these stories to be shared. So if you have an inspiring story that you would like to share, please also connect to hear from you. Okay. So I think as a wrap up of today's show as well, we looked at the importance of personal branding? How are you showing up for yourself? What is your online presence, your story? Do you have accountability partners that you can work for to drive this change? The importance of why you need somebody to work with. At Career Indaba, we continue empowering this, but we want individuals to start taking accountability, and we would like to support that, maybe through connecting companies with you, etc. When we started off unpacking the reality of youth employment, the challenges, the frustrations, and the mindsets that often hold us back, we then explored how accountability, skill building, and self-belief can turn struggle into opportunity. And of course, we heard the incredible story of Ozzy, who broke the norms and created his own path, showing us that where there's courage and consistencies, there's always a way forward. If there's one message to take away from today, it's this: don't wait for opportunities, create them. Start where you're at with what you have and keep learning, growing, and showing up. Ozzy's story is all of that, and I'm so excited to see how your journey unfolds, Ozzy, as you continue with your journey. I remember the first time I met Ozzy, I said, "You have so much of light in you, Ozzy." Him being shocked, like, "What are you talking about, Coach Naz?" I will never forget my first. Okay, so remember, every small step that you take moves you closer to your potential for yourself. So take away the blame and take back the power. Ask yourself, how do I create my life? What do I want for myself? And where do I start? If you have been tuned in for the whole show, we thank you for being part of for supporting our initiative. If you've just joined, we would like for you to get involved in this initiative and bring on people that can drive the change. If you know people who can support this and bring that change, please connect them with Career Indaba on www.careerindaba.org. Ozzy, from your side, what would you like to say in closing?
When it comes like for the youth out there, just be kind to yourself. Like practice kindness and offering yourself grace in this state phase of unemployment into transitioning into employment. It does require a lot of grace. There's a lot of stuff that's standard across the board in you finding your feet and your place in the world. So don't let it crush you too much that you end up losing yourself and your spark. So just take it easy. It's happened to all of us. It's not the end. Don't give up. Keep pushing. And yeah, it's would also like to say thank you for having me. This was like really fun and exciting to see how the journey has unfolded. Yeah, so thank you.
It was amazing, and thank you for making time to be part of this initiative. Career Indaba, we're very excited to have you, because it really is, presenting what the youth is going through, and you put such a positive spin. And I love that you are so real and authentic, and to get that out more. People need to start being real. Let's get real, people. Technology is taking over. Robots are taking over. Have humanness. Let's have realness. Let's have authentic. That's driving our life, because that's what sets us apart from the AI world, is the fact that we have a unique light. And if you're not going to connect with that light, you're not going to shine and just be like, why are people not seeing me? They're not seeing me because you don't want to see yourself. So start seeing yourself, taking the steps, connect with different people, start scrolling in the right content. There's so much of free content, not just in the digital age, with how to know yourself, how to love yourself, how do I connect with myself, how do I change from a victim to a survivor. It doesn't have to be paid for content. There are books that are out there that you can read. But this youth unemployment of this generation, the difference is information at your fingertips. But it's the choices that you make to drive the change. What are you to consume on social pages? That's what makes the difference. You could have a post with 5 lines that can change your entire life, but you are choosing to scroll on things that are not going to change your life. People who want to contribute to, oh, it's the government's fault, oh, it's these people's fault, South Africa is like this. also as education, how do we drive higher, the pass rate of schools at the moment is at such a low that also plays a role in the skill set that's going out there and confidence levels. We need to increase that a bit. A person should know at least 50% of the knowledge in
Yeah.
order to make it through. So how are we going to change those kind of things? And these are conversations that we would like to ignite. This was one of the first shows and our launch week where we have the Career Indaba Takeover Impact Week. But yeah, there's many more moments that's coming, and we would like for you to be part of that conversation. So I do thank my guest Ozzy for joining, making time. It was a very cool experience to share this with you. And in closing from our side, I just want to say, start where you are with what you have, keep learning up. I'm Coach Naz, and this has been Career Indaba, Career Talk, your space to empower, evolve, and elevate. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, keep believing, keep building, and keep becoming the best version of yourself. Thank you,
Mm.
Ozzy, for this amazing experience.
Thank
And thank
you.
you for your time, which is the most valuable thing we share with each other, right? Time
True.
more than money. What you do with your time is what impacts your future. So choose wisely, the youth of South Africa. Choose wisely. Come now. Thank you so much, guys, again, and connecting with us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
Career Indaba, where skills meet opportunity. Join the movement. Career Indaba, real voices, real change, real opportunity.